and hope that it works. Okie dokie. Good evening. I'm going to share my screen so that we can just check a couple of things first. Okay. So I just want to check that you can see and hear me, or at least you can see the screen that I'm showing and you can hear me. That you're in a place where you can move around a little bit, that you've got no distractions, or you've minimized them as much as is possible when you're working at home. You've got clicker and treats if you want to use them. I mean, the treats you will need. The clicker is if you're going to use them. I don't think either of you are, so that's fine. I can actually mute and unmute you now. Zoom lets me have all of the power, but if you want to mute or unmute yourself, it's normally going to be in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen as you're looking at it at the software window. There's also reactions. I think it's a little smiley face with a plus sign. So if you have a question and I am chatting away and you can't butt in, if you raise your hand, it will show me on my little video that I have of you, my little screen, and let me know that you've got a question. We haven't really needed it, but there's always a chance that I'll be off on a rant and that you might want to interject. So, welcome. Would you like to tell us a little bit about you and your dog? So, I would like to know your names, what you most like about your dog, and what you want to get from the course. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a second so that we can see your lovely faces. Abby, do you want to go first for me?
Yes, I'm Abby and my dog is called Heidi, and I've had her for just over a year, and she came from Zante through a charity, and she's a really sweet-natured soul, a really lovely dog, and what I'd like to get out of this course is to be totally confident that if I recall her, she'll come straight back.
Perfect, thank
Every
you.
time.
Every time, no pressure. Harriet, how about you?
Yeah, so my name's Harriet. My dog is called Sprite, like the drink. I've had her just under a year. I got her May last year. She's a pandemic puppy. Pretty similar to Abby. She's very sweet, she's very loving. She is clever. That's also slightly one of the things I don't like. She knows when to think she can get away with things. And again, very similar, just really solid, reliable recall. She loves being off lead. She's a real active lab. She comes from working stock. But other dogs and smells are far more interesting than I have ever been in the sort of 10 months I've owned her. So I'd like to be the most interesting thing for her so that she can come back when called, whenever she's called.
Okay, great. So we're looking for complete perfection. Excellent. That's totally not unrealistic at all. No, I understand, and I appreciate you're probably not really thinking that you're going to get 100% reliability, but I'm here to say you're probably not going to get 100% reliability, because they're living beings with their own thoughts and opinions about things. But I do honestly think that for most dogs, there's always a caveat or two, but for most dogs, I think we can get up there in the high 90s. Even if that means that there might be the occasional environment or two that you might not choose to give them as much freedom as you would in other environments. Personally, I kind of think that's fair enough, and is part of living with a dog who has things that they want to do. Okay, so we're going to get cracking because we're here to do some training. So I like sharing my screen a lot because I spend ages creating these slides and videos for you, so I'm going to make you watch them. Okay. So Our very first game exercise is about creating a pattern where your dog will automatically check in with you. So although we will spend time working on a formal recall cue, and by that I mean teaching them a word or a whistle sequence or whatever, it doesn't matter what your cue is, and teaching them that we expect them to come back when they hear that noise. I actually quite like to not rely on that with my dogs, and instead to have them checking in with me automatically without me having to nag them or say anything to them throughout the walk. Because if they're checking in with me every 30 seconds or so, depends on the dog, they can't get too far away. And I can also use that pattern of behavior to build other things, which we will talk about later. But basically, I teach my dogs that when they see something that we might term a distraction, I want them to automatically check in with me so that the distraction becomes a cue to do a behavior. And that's where the real power lies. But first of all, we have to get them in this pattern. So we're going to teach them that on cue, they're going to chase and eat a treat that we're going to throw on the floor. We're basically artificially creating a distraction. They're going to eat that treat and automatically reorientate to you, check back in with you. So for the why, like I've just explained, for why, because it's going to build onto more bigger, better things, but also in the recall games, I chuck a lot of food around. I mean, I do generally in my training, but I like throwing food to the floor. That doesn't work particularly well if your dog eats the food on the floor and then sniffs for half an hour, seeing whether there's any other morsels. So I teach this exercise so that my dogs know they go out, they grab the treat, they immediately turn back to me because we're going to be doing something else. I'm all for efficiency. So I'm on the slides, it's always going to say click. You are either, Abby does a mouth click. If you want to say yes, Harriet, that's fine. It's just my shorthand. So you're going to click and feed your dog for looking at you 5 to 10 times, 5 times for tonight. They just have to be vaguely pointing their nose in your direction. I'm not really looking for eye contact. You're going to do that 5 times, and then you're going to drop the 6th treat to the floor by your feet. As your dog raises, oh, you're both girls, her head, you're going to click, mark that, feed 1 treat to their mouth, drop a 2nd treat to the floor. It is going to look like this. Yes, those are my pajamas. So what I'm looking for is he eats the treat, he immediately turns back to me. That's all I want. He doesn't have to really look at me, vague focus in my direction. I'm looking for orientation, not concentrated eye contact. Okay, I'm going to try something a little different tonight. So I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see you on a bigger screen, because that's always helpful. So, Abby, would you mind going first for me? Because I know you've done this one.
Okay. You've got to do some work.
Good. Lovely. Just point it out. Well done. It's got lost on your lovely rug.
It's the same colour. It's Frankfurter.
Good. Well timed. Lovely. Lovely. Super. Your timing is excellent, Abby. Well done. Right. Let's mute you, unmute Harriet, pin Harriet so that we can see the lovely sprite. Okay, so 5 just for looking at you. And then drop 1 on the floor. Mark as she looks up at you. Good. Super.
Yes. Yes.
Well done.
Yes.
Excellent. Brilliant timing, both of you. Oh, it makes my job easy peasy. Okie dokie. So we will move on because efficiency. So that exercise I tend to do at the beginning of every training session because I want to make sure that my dog can pay attention to me, is able to look at me and start to ignore everything that's around us. And then I know that their brain is engaged, at least somewhat. So this week, recall conditioning. So we're not actually going to practice recalls. We're going to set it up so that they can't possibly get it wrong. Ultimately, you want your dog to return immediately to you on cue, everywhere, every time. That's like our ultimate goal. We're never going to get there, but it's our ultimate goal. Why do we want this? Because that means our dogs can have more freedom. Our very first proper recall exercise is going to be you standing in front of your dog. You give your recall cue. I don't care what your recall cue is. I actually have 2. So I have a verbal one, which is Fido come, or I have a whistle cue. And I teach both in exactly the same way. So you're going to give your recall cue, then you're going to have a treat party, and you repeat the whole process. So what the hell's a treat party, Kelly? A treat party is at least 5 treats. You can break up bigger treats into small things. It's not about the volume, it's about the length of time that this takes. And whilst you're feeding one treat after the other, you're going to tell your dog how awesome she is, how she's the prettiest dog on the planet, that you've never seen a dog with, you know, more soulful eyes, that you're the reason that you get up in the morning is just to see her beautiful face, or any other ridiculous things that you can think of. It's going to look like this. I don't know whether you can actually hear that video because it's quite quiet. I probably should re-record it. So so his cue is Brett come, his name's Bracken. And then whilst I'm giving him these treats, what I'm doing is mumbling, here's a good lad. These are yummy for your tummy. Oh, what is this? Nice sausages. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Right, it's just a litany of rubbish. The point is that I want him to stay with me, because I discovered once I had spaniels, and Bracken was the first spaniel that I owned, that they don't like hanging around you very much. Not like my German Shepherds, who you couldn't get rid of most of the time. Spaniels would come in, take a treat and be off again. So the treat party was born to try and keep their feet on the floor and staying with you. So that's why I do it. And that's why I do it with all dogs now. So let's have a look at Abby.
Come, good girl, good girl. What a good girl you are. Yes, you are a lovely girl. Good girl.
Super.
Buddy, come. Good girl. What a good girl you are. Yes, you are a good girl. What a good girl you are. Buddy, come. Good girl, Buddy. Yes, you are a good girl. Yes, you are a good girl. Buddy, come. Good girl, Buddy.
Okay, I want to change one thing. I mean, that's beautiful and your commentary is lovely. The one thing I would change is bending down quite so much.
Right.
So I'm actually going to give you two things because I said I'd give you one. So clearly I'm going to give you two. Is not bending down quite so much. The reason for that is because you've got your whistle dangling and I don't want it donking her on her head.
Okay.
So just be aware of that. It's harder with dogs that are smaller. And also I want you to be aware of how you're giving her the food, because I think sometimes when we're so busy counting our treats and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and we're worried about the speed, you're tending to push the treat towards her,
Right.
causing her to back off.
Okay.
Which is exactly what we don't want. So
No.
when you deliver the treat, particularly for this, I want you to offer the treat to her. She's going to come forward for it. All right, so that she always comes to your hand. You kind of offer your hand, you hold it still, she comes to it, rather than trying to post it in her mouth and push it towards
Force feed her.
yeah, right. She can take it in her own time, it's fine. All right, cool. Right, let's take a look. Oh my God, I've lost the mute buttons. There we go. Okay, Harriet, off you go.
Yeah. You're a good girl. Let's go. Yummy.
Lovely.
Yeah. Yes. Good girl. That's it. Good girl.
Super.
Good job.
Okay, so the one thing I'd change for you, Harriet, is that I would want you, and the reason will become clear later, for you to put her name in first before you give your recall cue.
Okay.
It doesn't matter for this exercise particularly, but I want you to get into the habit of it, because later we're going to use the name as not the recall cue, but as a way to test whether our recall cue is likely to work.
Okay. Yeah.
So just do it one more time for me.
Sprite. Yeah.
Lovely.
Oh.
Super. And I'm just going to say the same thing about delivering of food. I think when we're worried about what we're doing, we tend to push the food towards them. So I just want you to be a bit more mindful of offering it and letting her come up to it rather than...
The only thing with her, can I still do it with like a flat palm? Because
oh yeah,
she is so food obsessed that she like launches at it. And then often my fingers have ended up in...
oh yeah, no, flat palms always. Yeah, it's just about that forward motion.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just about holding still and letting them come. It's a very small thing. I'm being picky for both.
It's fine.
But I'm like that. Okay, super. I wish sharing screens happened quicker. Okay, so our next exercise is the collar grab. So The reason I want to teach this is because, one, often when we call our dog, we end up wanting to put them back on lead. And so it's handy if you can hold their collar without them backing off and playing that whole keep away game. But also, two, often we recall them in a bit of an emergency, or that's what we'll be building to. I don't know about you, but in an emergency, I'm not really thinking very clearly. And it's highly likely that if my dog's come back to me, I'm going to grab him more roughly than I would do if I was thinking about things properly. I might be having a screaming fit. I mean, I don't know. I do weird things when I get stressed. It's likely that I'm going to grab and try and move him whilst holding his collar or harness. So I build this as a complete exercise so that when I have a complete hysterical fit and I end up grabbing my dog, screaming, dragging him away, he doesn't go, oh my God, you've lost it, and never come back to me again. Instead, I want him to think, oh, you're doing that really stupid game that you do. This is all fine. Besides the whole histrionics thing that might happen in an emergency, dogs are often concerned about grabby hands coming towards them, particularly grabby hands. And I want to teach them that it's no big deal. I also like the collar grab because even though I've pretty much only taught it to my dogs with me doing it, it has transferred to other people. So that when my spaniel, who is often in these videos, the cocker, took himself off the other month out of my front garden because the wind blew the gate open and I hadn't noticed while we were out there feeding the birds. And my neighbour from down the road, like 2 or 3 doors down, brought him back. He had just grabbed his collar and walked him back, and my dog was completely unfazed. That wouldn't have happened had I not done the collar grab, because he was totally anti his collar being touched as a puppy. So I know that potentially this exercise, is it going too far to say it saved his life? We don't live very far from a national speed limit road, so possibly not. What I do know is that he was brought home before I even really realised that he was missing. I just about counted the dogs in the garden, realised one wasn't there, and was about to go running out the garden to see where the hell he was. And my neighbour appeared with him. So I do know that I didn't have a complete freak out purely because his collar grab worked. So you're going to have treats in one hand ready. You're going to move your empty hand towards your dog. Now, depending on your dog, you might be able to touch their collar or you might not. The rule is you can move as far as you can get without them backing off. I don't want to see them backing off. I would start this with your hand underneath their chin. So over the top of their head is harder, under their chin, easier. Going to reach forward, then you're going to bring your treat hand in and give them a treat. So both hands are right there near their face. And then you're going to bring both hands back to you. When you can, actually, both of you will find it easy to click this. So you could click as you reach towards them. So as you would have touched their collar, click, second hand comes in, both hand comes away. You don't have to do the clicking though. If your dog is comfortable, by that, your dog is not backing up, not shying their head away. Ideally, as your hand comes towards them, a little tail wag, or if you've worked really hard at this, I just need to put my hand out and my dogs put their collar into my hand. That's perfect. Then you can start building up. With this exercise, I really do build up to grabbing the collar with a bit of rough with it, shaking it a little bit, dragging them with me. Because that is what I would do if I'm panicking. But you build up to it slowly. You don't do that first time around. So, some different people with different dogs for a change. some excellent camera work by yours truly. So you see Alison's hand comes in first, then the treat hand comes in, and she's feeding several treats. Hand in, couple of treats. She's got to the point where she's doing a little shake as she grabs the collar, and then feeding treats. Cool. So we started that kneeling because it makes it easier for the small dogs. You might want to do that, Abby, if it makes it easier for Heidi. You probably don't need to for Sprite. Okay, let's take a look, Abby. I like doing my training sitting down there, to be honest.
Go.
And feed. Yeah, so she's ducking away. So
Yeah.
I would just reach your hand towards her and then good. Good, both hands come away at the same time. So you need 2 distinct movements. So your right hand goes in first, then your left, that's it. And then both hands away, good. Right hand in, then your left, good. Super. So can you see what's happening now? Your hand comes in, she's looking for the food. That's what we want.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. You could probably touch one finger on her collar. Good. Excellent. Well done. So you can see that we can build this up quite quickly, even for those dogs that were shying away at the first movement. Okay, Harriet. Good. And for Sprite, I think it's more that she's like, oh, is that food in your right hand? Good. Lovely. Okay, just make sure that they're 2 distinct movements. So keep your left hand out of it. Your right hand goes in first. Good. Then the left. Perfect. We're not using the food as a distraction. It comes in after. Good. And that's exactly what I want to see. So your hand grabs her collar and she's looking for the food that she knows is going to come. Perfect. Well done. So I will endeavour to get what do I want to say? I will endeavour to get a video of me doing the histrionics that I do and put it up on the online stuff for you to have a look at, so you can see where I try and build it to. I have had some people question whether teaching a collar grab means that your dog's more likely to be stolen. I don't know is the answer. What I do know is that I prefer that my dogs could be grabbed by someone, as Flint proved the other month, and could be brought back. I think that's probably more likely a scenario than people being able to grab my dog's collar and nick them, to be honest. So I'm willing to take the chance. But if you have strong feelings about that, then you don't have to do this exercise. And maybe you just do it so that you can touch their collar with no trouble. I think that would be a good compromise. Okay, we're going to take a look at Take It. So we're going to teach this with food, but it doesn't have to stop there. So we're using food as a convenient thing that dogs generally want. But I teach this with toys for my toy obsessed dog. But I end up using this kind of approach with all things that I would consider a distraction. And what I'm looking for is that my dog automatically defaults to leaving stuff and only takes it when they're given the cue to take it. I actually use get it, which some people find a bit woo when we're in the park, because my dogs aren't allowed to just run up to people. But if people want to say hi to them and my dogs you want to do that, then their cue to say, go on, you can do the thing that you want to do, is get it. Had I thought about it longer, I might have chosen a different cue. But it's the same whether they want to get in the pond in Petworth Park too. So if they see the pond, their first thing that they default to doing is checking in with me, and then they get told, get it, and they can go and splash. Dogs are context sensitive, so they will learn when this rule applies and when it doesn't. So you'll probably see this in the video. I drop a piece of food and the second dog that's supposed to be staying on her bed comes in when it's obvious that the dog I'm actually training has missed it and sneaks it. Ideally, she wouldn't have done that, but I was in the middle of a training session, so I wasn't about to do anything about it. But it's just something to be aware of, that if there are specific things that you want your dog to default to leaving, you will have to set up the training so that they understand the context and when they should do that. It doesn't just generalize because you've done it with food in your hand. And we will be extending this exercise with other things too. So you're going to have a couple of treats in your hand, or just one, it doesn't really matter. You're going to close your fist around it and you're going to hold it high enough so that your dog can't really paw at it, but low enough that they're not bouncing up for it. Different dogs end up needing it at different heights. You need to keep your hand still. So if you feel like you want to pull your hand up away from them, then I want you to hold it higher and keep it there rather than doing this thing, because that just makes them snatch. You are going to mark for your dog backing off and or looking at you. So most dogs in the first instance will possibly look at you if you're holding your hand high enough, or they might stand and stare at the hand that's got food in it. Either one of those works right now. You're going to take a treat to give them from somewhere else, so not from the hand that they might be staring at. That's just to make the rules clearer for them at this stage. If your dog goes for the treats, you're just going to close your hand over them, not move your hand away. It's going to look like this. I actually redid this video. That's the next stage, don't worry about that. Okay, so we are, if I can move on. Don't worry about the get it, we're going to do that in a second. I just want food in your hand. You're going to move to opening up your hand so that they can see the treat, but they're not going for it. You're going to mark for them leaving the treat alone and or looking at you. Ideally, we want to build to them looking at you. You're going to feed them a treat from somewhere else. So, Abby, I know you've done this week, so let's have a look.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just catching up. Sorry, you froze for a second, so keep going. Okay, so are you waiting for her to look at you? Is she not looking at
Oh,
you?
I'm waiting for her to look away. I was practicing this today, and to be fair, it went a bit wrong because she started doing what you said might happen if you do it wrong, which is she was then bumping my hand because she
To
knew
back
she was
off.
getting a treat from
Yeah.
the other hand, and my coordination, I'm not getting it quite right, and now I've taught her to bump the hand with the treat in to get a treat from the other place, if you see what I mean.
Okay, so I've updated the videos online, so I want you to have a look at the video that I just showed, and
Yeah.
what you'll see is that I hold my hand high enough that he can't really bump it,
Okay.
and I'm feeding fast and furious,
Okay.
and initially he's not looking at me, but his nose is vaguely pointed in my direction. It's not pointed at my closed hand.
Okay.
And so that's what I want. It's better to start with that you're getting the behavior that you want, which is them not going for the food.
Right.
And then you can build up to the eye contact. What tends to happen is if we wait too long for the eye contact, they get frustrated, so they bump their hand.
Okay.
And then they come away from it. So then you feel like you have to reinforce that. And then we get that pattern that we don't want to see.
Okay. So do you have your treats in another pocket, do you, the other side? Because I find it difficult and then I drop the treats on the ground.
Yeah, I actually, in that video, that's a really good point. I actually have treats in both my hands. So I have one treat in the hand that I'm holding out.
Yeah.
And then I have a whole handful in the other one.
Okay.
And I just delve them out, and I just bring that hand back to my side, and every
Okay.
time I click and move it forward.
Okay.
And that's how I can deliver so quickly.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, give it another, watch the video again tomorrow or something when you get a chance. And then make sure that you do that as part of your homework this week, and I can feedback.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Harriet.
Okay, so it's hand out close, and when she looks away from it, I treat.
Yes.
Okay. You know which hand's got the treats. Yes.
Good. So mark her looking away.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Super.
Yes.
Super. So your left hand, you can start opening it a little bit. That's it.
Yes.
Good. Well timed.
Yes.
Super.
Yes.
Lovely. So I can see that she is a bit snatchy. Is that how she normally takes her treats?
Yeah. I've tried trying to treat her gentle. She gets praised when she takes it softly.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to check she
allowed.
wasn't getting stressed by this. That was all. So if that's normal for her, that's fine.
No, I think she's so food orientated to the lab that she's like, that needs to get in my stomach. I'm like, okay,
no, you'll notice that my Cocker Spaniel is exactly the same. So I was just wincing a little bit about how she's like, your whole hand ends up in her mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what happens with me and Flint too. So yeah, I was just going to say, you flat hand for delivering the treats.
Yeah,
was all.
Yeah.
I just wanted to check that she wasn't getting too stressed. That looks great. So I would open your hand first, like you were, and then when she's not bumping it at all, I start lowering it, so that it's not as though, I mean, I'm not really mean with this. I don't. Oh, well done, Kelly. I don't know what you're doing. You're clicking everything now. It's ridiculous. Okay, hang on. And I've now lost you all. There we go. I'm not really mean with it. I don't like try and shove it in their face or anything and try and get them to back off. That's not the point. What I'm really trying to teach them is this next bit, which is the cue for you can get it, which is what was happening at the end of that video. So I was doing several with my hand open. Yes, food comes to you. Yes, here's the food. Yes, here's the food. Take it or get it, whatever. And he comes to the food that's in my open hand. And you see from Flint in that video, he's very clear that when I say yes, he's not trying to get that food. He's getting food from the hand that's moving. And he absolutely understands that. And that when I say get it, he looks straight at the thing that he knows is there, that he's been ignoring. So we've got time. Let's have a quick go, Abby, again, and we'll see about, oh.
Can I just let Sprite out really quickly? Just keep
Of
going
course you can. Lovely. Super. Did she drop it? Lovely. Now I want you to open that hand and do a couple. Super. And then one where she can take it. Lovely.
Yeah.
That was super, Abby. So I think that's the level that you're at, and I would do that for a session before you start moving your hand that's holding the food lower.
Okay.
Just to cement it. That's the
Okay.
way I wanted. Okay, Harriet, let's do that.
Sorry, what is it?
So you're going to repeat what you just did, but on one of the reps, instead of marking for her looking at you, you're going to say get it or take it, and that's going to be the cue for her to take the food in your open hand.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Good. Yes.
Okay, so on the next one, you're going to say take it.
Take it.
Lovely. And then just offer that left hand down for her so that she knows she can have that one. Perfect. When the hand is low enough, she can just go straight in as soon as you've said take it. But obviously right now we need to lower it so that she can.
Yeah.
After you've said it. Perfect. So all you're going to do is juggle between the yeses and delivering food from another place and take it, you can have the thing. For most dogs, you are going to spend more time doing the yeses. Occasionally there's a dog where you would spend more time take it. What you probably will find as they become more skilled at this and that they do the default leave it most of the time, you will have to do more take it's because they'll be so skilled at it, they'll be like, nah, you're kidding. And so you'll need to build the value up again for taking it and wanting it. But that's cool. And that's just part of training. It's just one of those things. It's because of the Premack principle, actually, if you want to look it up, but it's by the by. I always like it when it means that I have to do the take it's a bit more because it means that my training's been working and we all like that. Okie dokie. I broke my cardinal rule, which was to only do 3 or 4 exercises in 1 week, and thought I'd see if I could squeeze in number 5. So proximity value, which is a really crappy title. So if you can come up with a better one for me once you've seen this exercise, I'm all ears. I like my dogs to come close. My dogs are small enough that I actually want, when they do check-ins, I like them to jump up at me because I have a bad shoulder and back, and my spaniels are small enough that it's a real pain to bend down to them. So I actually teach my dogs to put their paws up on me. You don't have to do that, even though in the video that you're going to see, I encourage my dogs to put paws on me. You totally don't have to. And I wouldn't do this with like my previous German Shepherds because I didn't want them jumping up at me. But I don't mind with the Spaniels. The reason for doing this is I want my dogs to be close enough that it's really easy for me to hold them and get hands on them, and that they're not spending their life a foot or two away. I like for my dogs to come in close when I've recalled them. So in this exercise, I'm sitting on the floor in my conservatory. I do a lot of training by sitting on the floor, but you don't actually have to be on the floor. If you don't want your dog to put paws up on you, I'm going to suggest that you don't sit on the floor and instead sit in a lowish chair or just a normal chair, depending on the size of your dog. I like having them come between my legs so that they can get closer. So they're really bursting your personal bubble. You are going to throw a treat away for your dog to get away from you, in front of you. As they turn and come back towards you, because we've just done that auto checking exercise, I want you to hold a treat so that they can see it close to your body, so that your hand is touching your body as you hold the treat. It might be for those dogs that are really sensitive about piercing your personal bubble, that it needs to be on your knee. You need to hold your hand on your knee for them to come close. You'll see in this video, Flint has no such worries about personal space. He doesn't have that issue. You're going to mark as they come in to get it, as they get close. And then as you progress this exercise, you're going to mark as they get closer and closer and closer. You're going to mark, give them the treat whilst your hand is touching your body. And then you're going to get a second treat. Throw that away so that they can come back in again. It's going to look something like this. Now, Flint has no problems about clambering all over you. So, but you don't have to have a dog that does the same. So I throw the treat, he comes in, I hold the treat right up by my neck. So he's coming right in. And he's actually putting his paws up on my thighs to get as close as possible. This, for him, this is a fairly natural position. It's not a problem for him. Okay, so the reason for throwing the treat away is to get some momentum for those dogs that don't like coming so close. But also it builds speed. So you'll notice that Flint was, what I like to check is that the speed he runs out to get the treat that I've thrown is the speed that he comes back in with. Because all too often the speed that you throw the treat, start again, Kelly. The speed when they go out to chase the thing is much faster than the speed that they come back in with. And I really want to make sure that that speed is just as high when they're coming in. So that's something to watch for. Abby, do you want to have a go? You can totally do this sitting on a chair. You don't have to do your training on the floor like me.
Or maybe I'll try the floor. We'll see how we get on.
All right. And she doesn't have to clamber on you, I promise.
Can you still see me?
I can still see you. Good. Lovely, just feed there. Yeah. So she's a little bit more sensitive. So I've got another video on the online stuff of Fraggle. She's far more sensitive and you'll see how I deal with that.
What what do I do now? Do I put
Okay,
it
so
Okay.
I can't see what your legs are doing, but if you've got them out in a V in front of you,
Yeah.
I would rest your hand on your knee to start with. Yeah, there. So
Okay.
come that close, and then gradually you'll bring it up your thigh so that it comes closer and closer to you.
It's over there.
Yeah. And that's what I want, so that she's coming in confidently each time. And then you'll just bring your hand, you know, a centimetre closer to your body.
Okay.
Yeah. Super. You just need to get into a rhythm. A lot of training is about getting into a rhythm. And then once you've got her coming in, you're going to mark her with your click as she's coming as fast as she can back to you. Yeah, so
I
as
think
she
just got you. And she's looking at my other hand as if she's not supposed to take this treat.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to click it when it comes in?
I probably should reorder these exercises, maybe.
She's waiting for me to.
So that's why you need to have that click at the right time so that she knows she can take it, right? Because the click means the food is for you.
I'm clicking as she comes into it, yeah?
Perfect, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you'll find that she'll dive right in for it. Okay. Harriet. Let's have a look.
Do I use the marker word when she turns back round or when she touches?
Yeah, for this I kind of mix it up, and it depends on the dog and what they're doing, to be honest, and what bit of the behavior that I want to try and improve. So just do a couple without marking, and then we can see what you've got and go from there. Lovely. Yeah, so for her, I would probably click early when she turns towards you, because I want to speed her up.
Yeah, she is quite slow on the way back.
Oh.
Sorry, it's crying.
Oh dear. I hit it in the head.
Yes.
Super. Yeah.
Yes. There you go. Yes.
Good. Yeah, we definitely want to speed her up.
Yeah.
So, and it might be, I mean, there's all sorts of things going on in your kitchen, in that she might be a more sensible dog in the house and not do the running thing. My dog's not like that. But it might be the flooring, it might be all sorts of things why she's not coming back so quickly.
Yeah.
There's not a huge amount of distance for a bigger dog either to get up ahead of steam. So you might want to do this in the garden or something, or in the hallway where there's a longer stretch or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, for her, the earlier you click, the more speed you tend to get, because they're going to come in for the food.
Okay.
So if that's the bit that you want to work on, click early. And if you're working on how close she's going to get, you're going to delay that click until she's got closer.
Right.
Okay. I would, for a dog like her, I would probably bounce between the two. So one session I might click for speed, and another one, okay, I'm going to click for how close you're coming in.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Right. You'll be glad to know that is it. No more exercises for this week. Thank goodness, Kelly. Have you got any questions, either of you?
Yeah, I'm still a bit confused about the last one. So when I throw the treat out and then she's going to turn around and come back to me, do I click as she turns around and starts coming back to me, or do I click when she's got to me and the treat against my body?
Both. So, both. But you're going to pick one thing.
Okay.
So to explain that, this behavior has a number of different bits to it, building blocks to it.
Okay.
So we can split out the skill that we're going to work on in each session. So like we did with Harriet and Sprite, if we click early, we're more likely to get more speed. And so if we want to work on speed towards us, we're probably going to click as soon as she looks at us to begin with. If we like for you though, she's more concerned about how close she's getting to you. So I might work on that bit first.
Okay.
And so in that case, I'm going to wait until she comes towards me and click as she gets to me.
And can I lure her?
Well, we kind of are already
okay.
by having the food ready. So we're already kind of luring. I would suggest for you that if you've got your legs out in front of you, like I did in that video, that you mark the moment she crosses the threshold of your feet, but you're holding the treat by your knee. So you're marking as she's moving, because we always want to mark for movement, for muscles moving, really. And then she's going to come a step closer to come and get the treat. But we're using her momentum to get her a little bit closer. And then over time, over a few reps, you're going to move your hand halfway up your thigh, and you're going to click as she gets to your knee instead. Yeah, so that you're always just that moment before she gets to the treat.
Okay.
But she knows where it is. You don't really see that so much on the video with Flint because he doesn't have a problem with coming close. But there is a video of Fraggle, which was the dog that you saw on the bed, waiting kind of patiently on the bed. She is a more nervous dog, and is more concerned about coming in, or was more concerned about coming in close. So for her, I was treating her more like I would Heidi, and marking as she comes closer, but she doesn't have to come right up into my neck to get the food. And at one point I kind of fold my leg in front of me, and I'm marking as she steps over the leg. She won't put her feet up on me. At that point, I can't remember how many years ago that was, she wouldn't put her paws up on me. This is no longer a problem, but it was at the time. So I was marking for her moving into my space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And I don't think Sprite is so concerned about moving into your space, Harriet. I just want to work on that speed for you.
Yeah, no, she doesn't care about getting in my face in the slightest. I am trying to stop her jumping up at people, so I definitely like to just work on the speed.
On the speed, yeah, that's fine.
On me.
That's cool. And we can, so this is definitely one of those exercises that's useful for a lot of different things. And I like it for you remembering that the food is close to you, because if you're always delivering food when your hand is touching you, they can't get an awful lot closer than that. And that means that you can just put your hand down and you've got hold of them. And that's the key for me with the recall, because so often they keep just far enough away, and then you get into that whole horrible thing of lunging towards them, and then that all goes horribly wrong. Okay, any other questions? No? Cool, I will let you go then. Just a reminder that please send your videos in for your homework. I send them back with a commentary over the top normally, so you just click on a link and you can replay it with my commentary. The other thing is I do have now an online community that is not on Facebook, because I try not to spend too much time on Facebook, so it's completely separate. So there's no adverts trying to sell you random stuff because you happen to talk about something weird and your phone overheard you or something. I will send those links out so that you can join that if you want to. You don't have to, it's free, but and I'm just building it up at the minute, but I'm putting in training videos of me and my dogs, and I'm setting challenges for each month and stuff like that. So you are welcome always.
So do we take a video of each of the exercises we did today and send them to you?
Yeah, so you can send me up to 3 videos a week.
Okay.
I'll be sending you an email with the reminder for stuff after we come off this call, but up to 3 videos for up to 5 minutes, so you can do more than one exercise in a video.
Okay.
It's up to you whether you send them all in at once or whether you spread them out during the week. Personally, I think it's better if you spread them out, but not everybody does. Yeah, you don't have to take me up on me giving you feedback, but I think it's a nice thing for you to do. I think people that do it get a lot out of it. Yeah, so just the exercises that you've been doing. If you have a particular question about the exercise, or you're not sure how to move it on, or there's a particular thing that you want help on, when you email me the link or however you're sending it to me, just let me know what your questions are so I can address them. Otherwise, I'll just be talking over what I see in front of me, and where I think, if it was me training your dog, what I would do next, unless you've asked me specifically. Yeah, cool. The only other thing that I didn't mention was your whistles. So you got scent whistles. I know, Harriet, you're probably sticking to the whistle that you were already using, right?
Yeah, I have a 211.5.
211, yeah.
It is shriller. But I think when I did some gun dog training last year, they kind of just recommended I just kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, well, no, if you're using that, that's fine. Like I said, it's just my personal preference for the slightly lower tone.
Yeah, it's very high pitch.
It is. The reason for them is so that you can, when you inevitably lose it, you can go out and get one that sounds exactly the same.
Yeah.
I will do more exercises where we start putting the recall in as they come back to you and stuff from next week. But for this week, with the conditioning exercise, where you're just standing in front of them giving the recall cue, you can do that both with a verbal cue and your whistle cue. There are examples of both on the online stuff. I would encourage you to do 5 reps in a session, 5 sessions a day. So that's 25 recalls that they're getting right and being reinforced for every day. You cannot overdo this step. And if you have the time for it, I would do 25 of both your verbal and 25 whistle recalls. You'll see an example of my whistle recall. So I do 3 pips, but I blast the last one. So it's pip, pip, peep for my recall cue, which is not the traditional recall cue because I never do anything traditionally. The reason for my longer blast at the end is because of the places we were walking, we were getting a bit of echoes. And it seemed that if I made the last peep longer, they were able to orientate to me easier. When it was just short pips, there was a couple of times when my dogs were just kind of looking around going, I can't work out where that came from. And I think it was just the landscape we were walking in. And obviously it was bouncing off of the rocks or whatever. But I've kept the habit. But it doesn't matter as long as you are consistent so that your cue is always the same. I also often get asked does it matter if everyone's using the same whistle, because doesn't it always sound the same? No. The way you whistle your whistle, blow your whistle, will make it sound different to anybody else. I don't know how that works, but it does. And I can tell when my friend is whistling with the same whistle or when it's my husband, because they sound different, even though they're exactly the same pitched whistles. And certainly on my course, I discovered when I was doing these in person, there are people that don't know how to blow a whistle and their whistles sound really weird. So I used to play a saxophone, so I guess maybe I have opinions about it. But yeah, so don't worry about that. If your friend has exactly the same whistle, your dogs won't get confused. They'll know when it's you. Right, I am going to let you go. I will see you next week. Don't forget to send me your videos. Any questions or problems, email me during the week. Don't wait until the next class. Get some answers before then.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.